Right then, casual vlog. I'm not really a very casual person, so doing casual does not come naturally. I have a little helper, Dr. Leggy. He's a spider. Well, it is spooky season, so, you know. I'm going to go over a couple of projects that I'm working on at the moment and bring you up to speed on a few of the bits and bobs that are going on. There are a lot more projects happening than you'll see in this video. I'm trying to keep these videos fairly short, just to give you a quick update. This one's slightly longer. I feel like it needs a little bit of an intro just to explain what this is. There will still be the start to finish project videos as I've done before, but instead of me pushing really hard just to get the content out every fortnight, instead I'm going to keep you updated with videos like this, and then I'll be recording those projects as I go along. So as the projects are completed, that's when I'll release the videos on that. A little bit ad hoc. I do prefer a little bit more of an organised approach, but realistically, until this becomes something more than something I'm doing alongside my full-time job, I have to do it this way. If I was devoting full-time hours to this, I could definitely do the projects once every fortnight as I was before, because I'd have the time to do it. So I hope you enjoy this little look at what's going on, what I'm working on, and the new project, because it really is like some sort of illness. Every time I finish a project, another one pops up and needs doing. It's never ending. Oh well, that's just how these things go. Anyway, enjoy. This is the red coat, and this is a project that I'm struggling with. It is made entirely out of leftovers. So the main fabric, the cotton velvet, is curtains. The lining is a silk sari. The fur trim is an old fur coat that was damaged and not really repairable. The whole design is Regency inspired. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Regency period. I think a lot of the designs are not particularly flattering, and the menswear often leaves something to be desired. I think when you get into the Victorian period, a lot of the proportions were sorted out. But when you get into the Victorian period, a lot of the fabrics and style choices are a bit boring. So the idea with the red coat was blend the two together. So take a sort of Regency inspired overcoat, hence the cape with 3 layers, and just sort of budge it a bit historically. The trouble I'm having with the red coat is I was a lot smaller when I made this, and it doesn't fit me. The other problem I'm having is there are construction issues with it, because when I built this I didn't know very much about tailoring, about how things go together properly, so there's no structure in it. There's no shoulder pads of any sort, there's no padding anywhere, there's no interfacing to give it structure. So I unpicked the whole thing and I found some of it is still okay, the skirts of it are still okay, the sleeves are pretty good. The cape and the collars, because you've got this collar here which should stand up but doesn't because it has no stiffening, those elements are all fine. This mannequin is set to my current size, and the body of the coat, you know, you get a rough idea here of just how much too small the original fabric is. Now the other problem I'm having is finding a match to this velvet cotton, because the colour, I can find plenty of examples of this fabric that look the same colour and then they arrive and they're not. Seen separately, this looks a very similar colour, and when I ordered this, which also is an old curtain, I thought, oh great, I'm onto a winner here, and then I put it next to the coat and it's almost pink. So, and this isn't to do with because with velvet it has a nap, so depending which way round it is, depends how the colour appears, but this is just a lot more pink than the coat. So I'm a little bit stumped on this one. I've been having a look at some patterns recently. This one I picked up because bag patterns like this, where you have a lot of different options, you can see on here there's all these different kinds of bags, from your massive shopping bags down to your little makeup bag cum pencil holder. These patterns are great. They give you lots and lots of little bits and pieces that you can then put on other projects, and you can combine what's in here. So it helps you understand how, for example, handles are made. A lot of these do require zips. I don't really have any zips in because they're not something I use. So at some point in a future video I'm going to go through a couple of these and just show you how easy they are to make. Another one I picked up in the same sale was this, which it just grabbed my interest as a bit of design. It seems to be, when you look at the pattern, just a square that somehow makes this garment. And it was really the stripy fabric that caught my eye on it, because that's quite a striking garment. I did make a mock-up in some plain fabric. Now the pattern does say to use a stretchy fabric, and you do have to. If you make this in a plain fabric it doesn't work. But I'm going to run this one up at some point. The shape of it is, I don't know, it's an interesting thing. I've not seen anything quite like this one, at least on a modern pattern, well, a reproduction modern pattern like this. So yeah, I thought this one was interesting. I thought you might like to see that. And this one I've had for ages, and I've never got around to making it. I was hoping this year would be the year I would finally make a cloak for October, and no, it's not. The problem isn't actually the pattern. This is a fairly simple pattern, because cloaks are. I'd probably make the caped version. This is definitely something I would wear. The issue is when you look at the amount of fabric that you need. So cape B, for example, you're looking at, if it's a standard width fabric, between 6 and 7 yards for the lining and the outer. So 14, 15 yards of fabric probably. That's a lot of fabric. That's quite expensive. And it's not going to be the most interesting thing to watch me make, because it's going to be very simple. But it's something I would very much like to make someday. When I find the right lining material and the right outer fabric, that's on my wish list. But I've had this pattern a very long time, and I've never been able to justify the cost of the fabric required for it. But maybe one day. Another one of the projects at the moment is this tapestry. When it came to craft stuff, my mum was a bit of a hoarder, and I did inherit quite a bit of her craft stuff and spread it out with other people, and there's still loads left over. But this was one of the things that was in her stash, and I don't know where she picked this up from. I don't know how long she'd been working on it exactly. I think it's from the 1970s, the kit. They seem to be fairly popular kits. I've seen quite a few of them out there. It's not something I would have bought myself, but it has sentimental attachments. So the idea is you make it up and you either turn it into a wall hanging or a cushion, or something decorative. And when I got this, the box had a number of different skeins of yarn in here, and the tapestry itself had actually been started. Now I can't show you how they'd done it originally, but whoever had worked on it, whether it was my mum or somebody she got it off or what, I don't know, they'd worked the thread really tight, and it's actually broken some of the canvas. And the whole canvas itself it's not fragile enough that it's falling apart. It can still be completed, but it's certainly more fragile than I would like. So it's a bit of a challenge to complete it. I found if I put it on a tapestry frame or in an embroidery hoop, I have problems with the tension on the thread. A good example of that is down here. You can see how the thread is slightly different looking, and it's not a problem I've had before. Usually I've used a tapestry frame and it helps keep the tension nice and even, but something about this fabric, possibly the way it was stored, I don't know, means that I couldn't keep even tension on it. So I've actually been doing this by holding it in my hand and sewing it by hand, and I've been able to get much better tension. And it's a slow process doing these. Slightly quicker than cross stitch because it's like, well, it's a diagonal tapestry stitch, so it's half as much work as a cross stitch because you're not doing every single one twice. But it does take a long time to get through everything, and it's a printed one. So one of the other issues that I have is the colour key along the bottom here. These numbers, that doesn't line up with any of the threads I've got and their codes. So you sort of hold the thread up to the print, which has faded, and find the best match. So it's coming along quite well. I'll go into this in more detail in another video. One of the problems I had was this box of thread that came with it. I ran out of some of the greens, and when I first got the piece and had to undo the damage, the green was one of the worst ones for just running out. So I went on eBay and I was lucky enough to find another box of threads, and they had everything I needed, but now I have far too many. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with all of this wool. The weather's got in the way a little bit, so this woodwork project, which again you'll find out in a future video what this is a bit held up at the moment. I've got half of the prep done on the woodwork side of it, and that's turning out very nice. This is a lovely oak veneer on a plywood base. Recently got myself a new sander. This one is, I don't know if it says on it, there we go. It's an Erbauer brand and it's a battery powered one. Pat and I have been replacing the worn out power tools and various equipment with this range, and we've been very happy with it. This thing really shows up the sander I had before, and I'm really impressed with it. It made very light work of this and the very stubborn finish that was on it. So that's good. We've also had our first crop of tomatoes that we've ever grown in the garden. And I'm only mentioning this because this is on another project that's to be sorted out. This was a curbside find. One of our neighbours was getting rid of it. I needed some garage storage. I've since replaced this with a proper storage unit in the garage now. So this one has joined the restoration queue. And as you can see, it's been upcycled. I do hate that word. So this one's going to get stripped back and redone properly, so that it's not quite so grubby. It's solid pine, so it shouldn't cause me too much grief. You just have to wait for the weather to improve a little bit. Hello. Because it is not very nice out there. So there we go. First vlog. Thanks for your time, for watching it, seeing what I'm up to, and I shall see you next time. Next Tuesday's video will be a car video, as usual. I'm not sure which car it's going to be at the moment. I've got a couple of options. We'll see what the best fit is. Please do subscribe, and please do like the video if you've enjoyed it. And of course, please leave me a comment. All that interaction with the content is all really useful. So yeah, thank you very much, and I shall hopefully see you next week.